Hi. It's been a hot minute since I've recorded a mini podcast. I'm sorry about that. I don't consider myself to be a negative person, and so I don't like to dwell on negative topics too much. And I enjoy going over narrative properties, stories, movies, video games, shows, etc. But I don't want to constantly dwell on negative things that are going on. And so I decided to just avoid posting a whole bunch of rant mini podcasts, which is why I would have ended up posting if I just went ahead and just made mini podcasts about whatever was on my mind over the past couple months. In fact, I junked up a couple of main podcasts I did end up recording because I just didn't want to put that out into the internet. So fortunately, I have subject matter that is actually more on the positive side. It's not free of negativity, but it's definitely, for the most part, much more positive. And that's the fact that I just went and saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And I was actually, to be perfectly honest with all of you, I was dreading going uh, on my way to the theater as I was driving over there, and the couple days going into it. I just really was not looking forward to it. There's a couple of reasons why. Uh, Namely, that there was a lot of press going around that the subject matter was just going to be depressing and such. And I don't put all of my stock into critics, but I don't rule out their feedback either. I think that there's a happy medium that you can have where you can take their thoughts into consideration without giving them free range to decide your opinions ahead of time for you. Um, a, a good example of something that they did not get completely right was the first Venom movie. They were really down on it, but Venom, whether it's to your taste or not, I definitely thought that it was overall objectively very good, and I enjoyed myself with that. And just there was a lot of heart to the movie and objective quality in addition to subjective enjoyment. And but that's a whole nother thing. So there was that. Going into seeing Guardians Volume 3, and there was also just the fact that again, I don't want to dwell on negativity too much, but my hopes with Doctor Strange 2, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, were very solidly dashed. But I wanted closure on the Guardians. I wanted to see specifically what happened with Peter and alternative history Gamora to get closure on that. So I went anyway. And I don't regret it. Far from it. It was becoming pretty clear within the first about 15 to 20 minutes that there was nothing to worry about. I'm not going to be sticking around for James Gunn's DC stuff, but it's very clear that James Gunn still had the thread of what he was trying to do with the past couple of movies and carried it on here. It was exactly like watching the first two. It's definitely true that this subject matter this time around was a little on the sadder side. There's all these themes of, as you probably have heard, actually, spoiler warning, etc. There are themes of animal abuse and exploitation, experimentation going on. And by themes, I mean it's a big, huge section of the plot. And there's a lot of family infighting with the Guardians going on. But it doesn't really make the movie depressing. It's all there for a reason. It's the subject matter of the story, and ultimately it creates opportunities for positive things to happen. It creates opportunities for the characters to overcome certain trauma and baggage that they're holding on to, and uh, in certain cases recognize personality faults that they have within themselves, and also issues that they're having with relationships with each other. In this particular case, with Peter and Gamora, there was definitely the sort of closure I was looking for on that plot point. There was definitely a big resolution to that. If you wanted the romance to somehow resume itself, the movie gave every great reason why it wasn't going to do that and why it shouldn't do that, and that's perfectly fine. But the conversations that needed to have, they happened. Rocket is very much the main central focus of this. The main villain of this story is the person who create physically created Rocket and informed the experiences that make Rocket the person that he is by the time that we meet him and Groot in Volume 1. And there's a huge amount of closure to Rocket's character in that. Rocket's never really been my favorite Guardians character. Um, he's kind of one of those instances of where people are really hype on a character, and because it doesn't quite click with me, it kind of gets annoying when people are constantly going on about that character because it didn't click with me, and I generally just shut up about it and go about my day, and just park those feelings in the back of my head. But I definitely enjoyed what they did with Rocket's story here, and I'm actually happy for the resolution he got. On the subject of the villain, pretty good villain. There's been endless talk about how Marvel is not so great in the villain category. They have Thanos and a few other guys, but they really struggle with making good villain characters. This was a pretty solid villain. It's the cackle, evil at heart, irredeemable asshole type of villain, which popular culture has been really down on as of late, as of the past kind of, I want to say 2 decades, possibly even a little longer, where there's this idea of if you have a villain that doesn't have a tragic backstory or doesn't have good motivations informing them and giving you an eye into their head and any sort of redeeming values, that there's no merit to that character whatsoever. And I don't really subscribe to that theory, and it's good to see a villain who's just straight up evil at times. Not all the time, but it was definitely a really solid villain. Not the most memorable or especially exciting one, though. There was a really great joke midway, actually more of the last third of it, where Peter himself is just pointing out that this guy is like Thanos and few of the other ones. This, I think, as he put it, this purple maniac bent on conquering the world. And I thought that I'm not really into meta humor nowadays, and I'm not even sure this counted as meta humor. It seemed to just be a observation of a trope in this cinematic universe, but it was actually just a really great moment of just pointing out that this evil asshole is even though he has his own thing and his own unique characteristics, is at the end of the day kind of another one of this type of megalomaniac with a lot of power and just interest in remaking society as he or she sees fit. What else was really great about this? I mean, I could just end up summarizing the whole movie, and I'm noticing that this podcast is starting to go on a little longer than anticipated. So I'll just really and kind of just say here that it was great. It was particularly good, excellent, etc., and worth watching. I would, if I had to say the one sort of thing I didn't like about this, and this kind of was related to some of my dread going into this, it's that the ending post-credits sections, and actually just the right before the credits, just all those scenes before the credits, during the credits, after the credits, just etc., make it clear that even though this is supposed to close out the Guardians as we've known them for the past couple of Guardians movies, the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise as a subset of Marvel is deliberately meant to not be over. And there was a clear-cut indication that Star-Lord himself, Peter Quill, is not over. It was very clear that he was coming back. The text said that very directly. And the big thing about this movie is that in addition to getting closure on Peter and Gamora specifically, I wanted to just get closure on this earlier segment of the MCU, the Infinity Saga, because this was like the one element of the Infinity Saga that I did not have closure on, and I just at the time that Endgame was over, I wanted to be off the ride, and there hasn't been that opportunity till now. And the big trouble with these movies is that they don't want you off the ride, and they were very clear during the end of this movie that even though the Guardians as you know them are not going to exist in that way anymore, they still want to hold you right there to watch more things, to get you psyched on this upcoming generation of new and old Guardians joined together, and more adventures with Peter Quill and whatnot. So the only way to get closure and to get off the ride is just force yourself to get off. And that's what I'm doing after this. I was determined to do it anyway. I was hoping that it would be a good note to go off of. And it fortunately was. I just wasn't quite expecting it for it to just keep trying to bait me to stay on, but I should have kind of known better. So yeah, with this, I'm pretty done with the MCU. One of those mini podcasts that I had junked was more or less a kind of just an extended rant about why I'm trying to get off him. At this moment, I guess I'm reiterating some of those points, but I like myself some closure. I like it when I can see a narrative from the beginning to the end, and for there to be an end, so that way it creates value for what came before and doesn't perpetually devalue what came before by adding more onto it, which can be good, of course, but can just as easily be not so great. And this isn't me going on some sort of anti-Disney rant. That doesn't help anything. It just doesn't. There's really no point in that. If it wasn't this company, it's going to be another company. It's the same problem with DC. Heck of one particular instance that really gets to me is how if you're a fan of Naruto, you're never going to get proper closure on Naruto unless you just decide, like in this case, to just get off the ride, because they make Boruto nowadays and endlessly expand that franchise. So no, there's no point in hating on Disney for this. It's good business sense. There's enough demand for it for them to just continue to make more of this sort of stuff, because even though there's all this talk about Marvel fatigue and there is currently a decline in theater attendance and such, there is still some base level demand for this, and when quality is present, it can reignite the attendance. I'm pretty sure that, well, actually, I don't know one way or the other if this movie is going to do particularly well at the box office. It might just be that people don't have a ton of spare money right now. But we'll see. Maybe this will do some numbers. Maybe it won't. We'll just have to see. But even then, at the end of the day, it's not really the company's fault when people in larger numbers than those otherwise want more. And maybe we really shouldn't want more. We should maybe do our best to be happy with what we get and let things lie when they're over. So at this point, I'm just kind of rambling. This is another attempt, but the first one I'm actually going to be putting out, where it's a unscripted format, as you can tell by the length of this and such. I didn't write a script. I'm just simply doing my string of consciousness. I got some feedback that the scripted format was a little too, just exactly that, just a little too over focused and overproduced. So we're trying this now, and we'll just see how this goes. This might be too unfocused. I always like to strive for balance, so we'll just have to see what happens. But anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy, great movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, should be more specific. Great movie, great time. I don't want any more. I'm done with MCU. If they make something really great in the future, I might check it out, but I'm done being obligated to go. I'm okay missing out. I'm okay sleeping on these future movies until I get good reason otherwise. Thanks a bunch for listening, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.